The message glowed on David's phone, like a poisoned arrow. Missing you already. Last night was perfect. 3 little dots appeared, then disappeared, as if the sender was typing, deleting, typing again. I stood frozen in our kitchen, gripping the phone I'd picked up to check the time, while planning his anniversary surprise. Victoria, that's me, the wife who thought she had it all figured out. My hands trembled as I set his phone back on the counter, exactly where he'd left it when he rushed out for his early meeting. The screen lit up again. Another message. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place? The granite countertop felt cold under my palms as I steadied myself. 6 feet away, Lily sat at the breakfast table, humming while coloring her princess book, oblivious to how her world was about to change. My precious girl, who had David's eyes and my stubborn chin. "Mommy, can you help me stay in the lines?" she asked, holding up her crayon. "In a minute, sweetheart." My voice sounded strange, distant. I grabbed my own phone and snapped pictures of the messages before deleting them from David's notifications screen. Evidence. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. The front door opened, and David's footsteps echoed through the foyer. "Sorry, forgot my phone," he called out cheerfully. "Can't survive a meeting without it." I slid his phone back exactly where it had been and busied myself with the coffee maker. He bounded into the kitchen, all perfect teeth and designer suit, the picture of a successful family man. The sight of him made my stomach turn. "There it is," he said, pocketing the phone. He kissed my cheek, and I fought the urge to wipe it away. "You okay? You look pale." "Fine," I said, forcing a smile. "Just planning the menu for next weekend." His brow furrowed. "Next weekend?" "The dinner party." I kept my voice steady, watching his face. "Remember, we discussed it last month." "Oh, right." He snapped his fingers. "Sorry, work's been crazy. Listen, I might have to rain check that. Big project coming up." Of course, the big project that kept him working late, missing dinners, coming home, smelling of unfamiliar perfume. How long had I been blind to this? "Daddy, look at my princess." Lily held up her coloring book. David crossed to her, ruffling her hair. "Beautiful princess, just like you." He checked his watch. "Gotta run." "That meeting won't wait." I watched him kiss our daughter goodbye, watched him grab his briefcase, watched him leave, all while my mind raced through the past months, connecting dots I'd refused to see before. The late nights, the business trips, the new cologne, the password changes on his laptop. "Mommy," Lily's voice pulled me back. "Are you crying?" I touched my cheek, surprised to find it wet. "No, baby, just something in my eye." I moved to the table, sitting beside her. "Let's work on that princess together." As I helped her color, my phone buzzed. A calendar reminder. Order anniversary party decorations. 15 years of marriage. And I'd been planning to surprise him with a renewal of vows celebration. The irony made me want to scream. Instead, I opened my contacts and scrolled to Margaret's number. My mother-in-law, the woman who'd always treated me like an intruder in her precious son's life. For once, her overbearing nature might prove useful. "Hello, Margaret. Yes, it's Victoria. Listen, about that anniversary party we discussed." I paused, an idea taking shape. "I think we should make it bigger, much bigger. In fact, I have some thoughts about making it really memorable." Lily hummed beside me, carefully filling in her princess's golden crown. I watched her, my heart breaking and hardening at the same time. David wanted to play games, fine. But he'd forgotten one crucial thing about me. I always played to win. 3 days after finding those messages, I sat across from Rachel at our usual lunch spot, watching her face change as I slid David's phone records across the table. My oldest friend, the corporate lawyer who'd helped me track down things I never thought I'd need to know. "Jesus, Victoria," she whispered, scanning the highlighted numbers. "These calls to the same number, almost daily for 6 months. And look at the timestamps." My coffee had gone cold, untouched. "Always between 7 and 9 p.m., when he's supposedly at the office." Rachel's legal pad was already out, her pen moving. The number belongs to a Sophie Winters. She's a project manager at his firm, started 6 months ago. I pulled out my phone, showing her the LinkedIn profile I'd memorized. 30 years old, Harvard MBA, recently divorced. You've done your homework. I learned from the best. The attempt at humor fell flat. Margaret called this morning. She's pushing for a bigger anniversary party, wants to invite the entire firm. Rachel's pen stopped moving, including Sophie. That's the idea. Vic? Rachel leaned forward, lowering her voice. Are you sure you want to go this route? We could handle this quietly. I know excellent divorce attorneys. He doesn't get to walk away clean. My voice cracked, and I hated myself for it. Not after 15 years, not with Lily involved. The waiter appeared, and we fell silent as he refilled our water glasses. I caught my reflection in the window, composed, put together, like nothing was wrong. The perfect mask I'd worn all week while David came home late, kissed my cheek, played with our daughter, and lived his lies. Speaking of Lily, Rachel said once we were alone again, how is she handling things? She's not. Because she doesn't know. I twisted my wedding ring, a nervous habit I'd developed, but she's smart. Yesterday she asked why Daddy's phone keeps making noise during bedtime stories. And Margaret? Besides the party planning, she's suspicious, keeps asking if everything's okay between David and me. I think she knows something's off, but she'll never admit it. Her precious son could never. My phone buzzed. David's face lit up the screen. Rachel raised an eyebrow as I answered. Hey, honey, I said, my voice honeyed poison. What's up? Just checking about dinner. I might be late again. This project? The big one, with Sophie. The name slipped out before I could stop it. Across the table, Rachel's eyes widened. A pause. Too long. Sophie. Oh, right. Yeah, she's on the team. Must be nice, working so closely with her. I watched my free hand curl into a fist. She seems talented. Another pause. She's competent. Listen, I should go. Meeting's about to start. Of course. Love you. The words tasted like ash. Love you too. I ended the call and met Rachel's concerned gaze. That was stupid, I admitted. It was. He'll be more careful now. Good thing I already have what I need. I pulled out another envelope, this one containing photos from the private investigator Rachel had recommended. David and Sophie entering a hotel, leaving hours later. His hand on her back, her head thrown back in laughter. Rachel studied the photos, her lawyer's mask slipping. Oh, Vic, don't. I gathered the evidence, tucking it away. I need you to help me plan this party. Make it perfect. Everyone he works with, everyone he respects, everyone who thinks he's such a wonderful husband and father. And then I burn it all down. I finally took a sip of my cold coffee. But first, I need to make a stop at his office. Time to meet Sophie face to face. Victoria, wait. I've waited long enough. I stood, dropping cash on the table. 15 years, 2 miscarriages, and countless sacrifices. He wants to play happy families while destroying ours? Fine. But he's about to learn something about me he forgot along the way. What's that? I smiled. And it felt like breaking glass. I fight dirty when I have to, and I always protect what's mine. As I left the restaurant, my phone buzzed again. A text from Margaret. Darling, I've booked the Grand Plaza for the party. David's whole firm is so excited. This will be a night to remember. Yes, I thought, slipping on my sunglasses. Yes, it will. The elevator doors opened to the 32nd floor of David's office building, and I stepped out, wearing the red dress he'd always loved. My heels clicked against marble, turning heads as I approached the reception desk. A security badge, courtesy of Rachel's connections, hung at my hip, granting me access to the floor where both David and Sophie worked. I'm looking for Sophie Winters, I said, my voice steady despite the thunder of my pulse. The receptionist pointed toward a glass-walled conference room. She's wrapping up a meeting. Through the glass, I saw her immediately. Younger than me, sleek and polished. in a way that spoke of ambition and careful calculation. She was gesturing at a presentation screen, commanding the attention of everyone in the room, including my husband, who sat at the far end, watching her with poorly concealed admiration. I waited, studying their body language, the subtle glances, the way David's hand brushed hers as she passed him some papers, little moments they thought no one would notice. The meeting dispersed. David headed toward his office, not seeing me in the lobby. Sophie lingered, gathering her materials. Sophie Winters, I approached, as she exited the conference room. Yes? Her smile was professional, practiced. Can I help you? I believe you can. I extended my hand. I'm Victoria, David's wife. The color drained from her face. Her hand, half raised to shake mine, froze in midair. I don't. Let's skip the denials. There's a coffee shop downstairs. We should talk. She glanced toward David's office, then back at me. I have another meeting. No, you don't. But David has a lunch appointment with Margaret at 1. We have time. 5 minutes later, we sat in a corner booth, far from other customers. Sophie's hands trembled as she gripped her untouched latte. He told me he was separated, she whispered, that the divorce was almost final, that he only lived at home for his daughter's sake. And you believed him. I kept my voice neutral, studying her face, like I believed him when he said he was working late. We all believe what we want to believe, don't we? I never meant. She swallowed hard. I didn't know about Lily, about you. He never wears his ring at work. No, he wouldn't. I pulled out my phone, showing her the hotel photos. But he wore it here, and here, and here. She flinched at each image. How did you? Does it matter? What matters is what happens next. Are you? Her voice cracked. Are you going to tell everyone? I'm going to do worse than that. I leaned forward. In 2 weeks, we're having an anniversary party. The whole firm will be there, including you. I can't. You can, and you will, because you owe me that much. I pulled out a small USB drive. And because I need everything, every email, every message, every hotel receipt, everything that proves what he's done. Her hand shook as she reached for the drive. Why are you doing this? Why not just divorce him quietly? Because quiet isn't what he deserves. I stood, smoothing my dress. The USB by tomorrow. Or these photos go to the board of directors with an interesting story about workplace ethics. Wait, she grabbed my wrist as I turned to leave. There's something you should know about last week's business trip to Chicago. What she told me next made the world tilt sideways. I gripped the table, bile rising in my throat. I'm sorry, she whispered. I thought he loved me. I laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. He loves himself, Sophie. The rest of us are just convenient supporting actors in the David show. Back in my car, I sat shaking, Sophie's revelation echoing in my head. Not just an affair, not just lies, but company funds, redirected to secret accounts, a planned escape. Once the scandal broke, he'd been playing us both, setting up his exit strategy while we thought we were special. My phone buzzed. Margaret, darling. David just confirmed he's free for the party. Everyone's so excited. I started the car, my decision crystallizing. The anniversary party wouldn't just expose an affair anymore. It would destroy everything he'd built, everything he thought he could escape with. Perfect, I texted back. It's going to be unforgettable. And for the first time since this began, I smiled, because now I knew exactly how to break him. The USB drive from Sophie sat on my desk like a loaded gun. Inside were hundreds of emails, messages, and receipts, the digital breadcrumbs of David's betrayal. But it was the financial records that made my hands shake. Company accounts drained systematically, client funds redirected, a paper trail leading to offshore accounts. Lily's voice drifted up from downstairs, singing along with Margaret. My mother-in-law had insisted on watching her while I worked on party preparations. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone buzzed. Rachel, SEC filing found. You need to see this now. The doorbell rang before I could respond. Through my office window, I watched David's car pull into the driveway. Early. He was never early. I locked the USB in my desk drawer and headed downstairs, composing my face into the mask I'd worn for weeks. But something was different about David's expression as he entered. Tighter, more controlled. "Margaret, could you take Lily to the park?" His voice was too casual. "Victoria and I need to talk." Margaret's eyes darted between us. "Of course. Come on, sweetheart." Lily hugged my legs. "Can I have ice cream at the park, Mommy?" asked Grandma. I kissed her head, breathing in her innocent scent. "Be good." Once they were gone, David's facade cracked. "Someone's been accessing my work files." "Oh?" I moved to the kitchen, putting the island between us. "That sounds serious." "Very." He followed, watching me with new eyes. "It traced the breach. Want to guess where it led?" "Your girlfriend's computer?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. David's face went through a series of micro-expressions: shock, anger, calculation. "How long have you known?" he finally asked. "Long enough." I gripped the counter behind me. "The real question is, how long were you planning to run?" His laugh was ugly. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." "Actually, I do. The Chicago accounts, the missing client funds. Sophie told me everything." "Sophie." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "You talked to Sophie. She's more honest than you'd expect. Unlike some people." He moved closer, all pretense gone. "Whatever you think you know, I know enough to destroy you." I held my ground. "The anniversary party is in 10 days. You're going to attend, smile for the cameras, and then watch everything you've built crumble. You're bluffing." "Try me." I pulled out my phone, showing him one of the hotel photos. "This is just the appetizer. Wait for the main course." His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. "You have no right." "Let go." Each word was ice. "Or I send everything to the board right now." He released me, but his eyes were calculating. "Think about Lily, about what this would do to her. Don't you dare use our daughter." "Mom?" Lily's voice froze us both. She stood in the doorway, Margaret behind her, looking worried. "I forgot Lily's jacket," Margaret explained. But her eyes were sharp with suspicion. David switched masks instantly, becoming the doting father. "Hey, princess, having fun with Grandma?" But Lily's eyes were on my wrist, where red marks were forming. "Mommy, are you hurt?" "No, baby." I forced a smile. "Daddy and I were just talking about the party." "The party's off." David's voice was final. "The party," I said clearly, meeting his gaze, "is absolutely happening. Unless you want certain information reaching certain people tonight instead of next week." Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by something that might have been respect or fear. "Fine." He kissed Lily's head, nodded to his mother. "I have to get back to work. See you tonight, princess." After he left, Margaret lingered. "Victoria, if there's something wrong." "Everything's fine." I touched Lily's cheek. "Go enjoy the park, sweetheart. Grandma will get you that ice cream." Once they were gone again, I called Rachel. "The SEC filing," I said without preamble. "How bad?" "Bad enough to put him away for years." She paused. "Vic, he's got nothing left to lose now. Be careful." I looked at my wrist, where David's fingerprints were darkening into bruises. "No," I said quietly. "He has everything to lose. And in 10 days, he's going to lose it all." But as I hung up, Lily's worried face flashed in my mind. For the first time, I wondered if the price of revenge might be higher than I was willing to pay. 2 days before the anniversary party, I stood in the Grand Plaza's ballroom, watching the staff arrange tables and hang decorations. The stage was set perfectly, a celebration that would become an execution. My phone buzzed. Sophie. David's clearing accounts, moving faster than expected. Before I could respond, Margaret's voice echoed across the empty space. "Victoria, darling, I've brought the photo displays." She wheeled in a cart loaded with framed photographs. 15 years of carefully curated lies. Our wedding day, family vacations, Lily's birth. Each image a perfect moment hiding the rot beneath. "These will look lovely on the memorial table," Margaret said, lifting a particularly large frame. "Oh, remember this one? David's promotion party last year. The photo showed us laughing together, his arm around my waist. The same night he'd first met Sophie. Perfect choice. I helped her arrange the frames. Put that one front and center. Victoria." Margaret's hands stilled. "What's really going on?" "What do you mean?" "David barely comes home. Lily's been asking strange questions. And yesterday, I saw bruises on your wrist. I adjusted a frame, buying time. Everything's fine." "Don't lie to me," her voice cracked. "I'm not blind. Something's wrong with my son, isn't it?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. "Rachel, SEC moving early. They're raiding the office tomorrow." My carefully laid plans started to crumble. Tomorrow, the party wasn't until the next night. Everything would be ruined if— "Victoria," Margaret touched my arm. "You're shaking." "I have to go." I grabbed my purse. "Can you finish here?" "Wait." She caught my sleeve. "Whatever's happening, whatever David's done, please don't hurt my granddaughter." The words hit like a slap. I would never. Not physically. Her eyes were knowing. But revenge has a way of hurting everyone it touches. I pulled away, heading for the exit. Sometimes justice looks like revenge to those who don't want to see the truth. Outside, I called Rachel. "How much time?" "Raid starts at 9 a.m. I can't delay it." "And David?" "Sources say he's booking flights, multiple destinations under different names." My hands shook as I started the car. "He's running." "Vic, listen. If he leaves the country, he won't." I pulled out into traffic because I'm going to give him exactly what he wants. At home, I found David in his office, typing frantically on his laptop. He looked up as I entered, his face a mask of calculated calm. "We need to talk," I said. "I'm busy." "The SEC raids tomorrow." His fingers froze over the keyboard. "How did you—" "Doesn't matter. What matters is I can stop it." Now I had his full attention. In exchange for what? A clean divorce. Full custody of Lily. Half of everything, including the offshore accounts. He laughed, but there was an edge of desperation. "Or what? You'll let them arrest me?" "No." I placed a USB drive on his desk. "I'll give them everything. The Chicago accounts, the client funds, Sophie's testimony. Everything." "You're bluffing." "Try me." I met his gaze. "You have 1 hour to decide. After that, I send it all. To the SEC, the board, and every guest at tomorrow's party." "The party's canceled." "No, it's not. Because tomorrow night, you're either going to be there, signing our divorce papers in front of everyone, or you'll be in federal custody. Your choice." I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. "What happened to you, Victoria? You used to be so soft." "You happened to me." I looked back at him. "And now you get to live with the consequences." In the hallway, I heard Lily's voice floating up from downstairs, reading a story with Margaret. My daughter's innocent laughter twisted something in my chest. My phone buzzed one final time. "Sophie, last account emptied. He's making his move tonight." I smiled, because that's exactly what I was counting on. David always ran when cornered. But this time, he'd run right into my trap. The game was changing, but the ending would be the same. Tomorrow night, one way or another, everything would end. I just hoped Lily could forgive me for what came next. The Grand Plaza ballroom sparkled with false celebration. Champagne flowed, cameras flashed, and David worked the room like the consummate performer he'd always been. Only I noticed his frequent glances at his watch, the slight tremor in his hands as he checked his phone. I smoothed down my black dress, funeral attire disguised as evening wear, and watched the SEC agents mingling with the crowd, disguised as party guests. Rachel's doing. My insurance policy. "Mommy, when can I have cake?" Lily tugged at my dress, resplendent in her party clothes. "Soon, baby." I kissed her head. "Why don't you find Grandma Margaret?" As she skipped away, Sophie appeared at my elbow. He's made the transfer. Everything's gone. My throat tightened. You're sure? Every account emptied 20 minutes ago. She looked pale in her blue cocktail dress. Victoria, if you're going to do this. Ladies. David's voice boomed behind us. Sophie flinched, but I turned slowly, meeting his triumphant smile. He thought he'd won. Darling, he said, kissing my cheek. Wonderful party. Though I'm surprised to see some of the guests. His eyes flicked to Sophie. I'm full of surprises. I checked my phone. 9:45 p.m. Speaking of which, it's time for your anniversary gift. Fear flickered across his face, quickly masked. Actually, I need to step out. No. I gripped his arm. You really don't. I approached the small stage, where the band played, taking the microphone. The music faded, faces turned toward me. Friends, colleagues, family. Margaret held Lily near the back, her expression worried. 15 years ago, I began. I married a man I thought I knew. David started forward, but two SEC agents shifted subtly, blocking his path. I'd like to share some photos from our journey. I nodded to Rachel, who started the slideshow. Here's David at the Ritz-Carlton last month. The first image appeared on the giant screen. David and Sophie entering the hotel. Gasps rippled through the crowd. And here's David moving client funds to offshore accounts. Financial records replaced the photo. Quite impressive, really. $15 million, all untraceable. I paused, or so he thought. David lunged for the exit, but the agents were faster. As they grabbed him, he shouted, "She's lying. Victoria's lost her mind." The SEC doesn't think so. I continued clicking through evidence. Neither does Sophie, who's been very helpful since learning she wasn't the only one you were deceiving. The room erupted in chaos. Cameras flashed. People pressed forward, their faces a blur of shock and scandal. Then Lily's voice cut through it all. "Daddy, why are those men hurting you?" Everything stopped. David ceased struggling, his face crumpling as he looked at our daughter. "Princess, because Daddy did something wrong," Margaret said quietly, holding Lily close. "Very wrong." As the agents led David away, he locked eyes with me. "You've destroyed everything," he spat. "No," I replied. "You did that yourself." But my victory turned to ash as Lily broke free from Margaret, running after him. "Daddy, don't go." I caught her before she reached the door, her small body thrashing against mine. "Let me go. I hate you. You made Daddy leave." Her words cut deeper than any of David's betrayals. Around us, phones recorded everything, turning our pain into entertainment. Tomorrow's headlines were already writing themselves. "Victoria," Rachel appeared beside me. "We need to go, now." I carried my sobbing daughter through the crowd, past the whispers and stares, past Sophie's tears and Margaret's accusatory gaze. In the elevator, Lily went limp in my arms, her tears soaking my dress. "You promised," she whispered. "You promised we'd always be a family." The doors opened to a mob of reporters. Camera flashes exploded like artillery fire. Questions bombarded us from all sides. "Mrs. Harrison, did you know about the embezzlement? Was this revenge for the affair? What about your daughter?" I pushed through them, shielding Lily's face, my own tears finally falling. In the car, Rachel touched my arm. "It's done," she said softly. "He's finished." But watching Lily curl into herself in the back seat, I wondered what else I'd finished along with him. The taste of revenge was bitter in my mouth, mixed with the salt of my daughter's tears. My phone buzzed one last time. "Margaret, I hope it was worth it." I didn't answer, because suddenly I wasn't sure it was. The visiting room at the detention center smelled of industrial cleaner and despair. David sat across from me, orange jumpsuit replacing his designer suits, his face haggard after 3 days in custody. "Where's Lily?" His first words predictably. "With Margaret." I placed a manila envelope on the table between us. "Divorce papers. Sign them." He didn't touch the envelope. "She won't even see me. She cries herself to sleep every night, asking why her daddy had to be a bad man." The words hit their mark. He flinched. Margaret's taking her to therapy next week. You did this, he hissed. You turned our daughter against me. No, you did that yourself, along with stealing $15 million and sleeping with Sophie. At Sophie's name, something shifted in his expression. Speaking of Sophie, have you talked to her lately? A warning prickled at the base of my neck. Why? Because while you were so focused on revenge, you missed something important. He leaned forward, almost smiling. Sophie wasn't just my lover, she was my partner. The room suddenly felt colder. What are you talking about? Check your accounts, Victoria. All of them. The joint ones, your personal ones, even Lily's college fund. Now he was definitely smiling. Sophie's quite good with computers, better than anyone at the SEC. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone, logging into our accounts. 0, 0, 0, every single one. Amazing what people will do for love, David continued. Or what they think is love. Sophie's probably halfway to the Caymans by now. With everything we had, everything you had. You're lying. But even as I said it, my phone buzzed with alerts. Account after account, drained completely. Did you really think I didn't have a backup plan? He picked up the divorce papers, tearing them in half. You wanted to destroy me? Congratulations. But I'm taking you down with me. I stood so quickly my chair toppled. I'll call the police. And tell them what? That the woman who helped you gather evidence against me also helped me hide everything. That you were so focused on revenge, you didn't notice her copying every password, every account number. He laughed. Face it, Victoria, you lost. Mrs. Harrison. A guard appeared at the door. There's a call for you. It's urgent. In the hallway, Rachel's voice crackled through the phone. Vic, Sophie's gone. The money, the evidence, everything. It's all gone. She played us both. My legs gave out. I slid down the wall, the cold concrete grounding me as my world imploded again. That's not all, Rachel continued. Margaret's filing for emergency custody of Lily. Given the publicity, the financial situation, and character witnesses from David's firm, no. The word came out as a whisper. She can't. She can. And she is. Rachel paused. I'm so sorry, Vic. I should have seen this coming. I returned to the visiting room. David's smug smile told me he already knew. Mother always wanted a second chance at raising a child, he said softly. Guess she'll get it with Lily. I'll fight this. With what money? What reputation? He stood, nodding to the guard. You wanted justice. Here it is. You destroyed my life, so I destroyed yours. The difference is, I made sure to have a safety net. As they led him away, he turned back. Oh, and Victoria, Sophie says goodbye. She really did like you, in the end. Said you were exactly as predictable as I told her you'd be. I sat there long after he was gone. The torn divorce papers scattered like confetti around me. My phone kept buzzing. Rachel probably, with more bad news. Or Margaret, with custody demands. Or creditors, discovering the empty accounts. Finally, I pulled out the one thing I had left, a small USB drive containing copies of everything, all the evidence, all the transactions, all the proof of David's crimes. I could still turn it over to the SEC, ensure he went to prison for years. But at what cost? I'd already lost my daughter, my money, my future. What was left to gain? The USB felt heavy in my palm, holding the last remnants of my revenge. And for the first time, I wondered if the price of justice was too high, or if what I'd called justice had been nothing but revenge all along. My phone buzzed one final time, a text from an unknown number. Sorry, Victoria, love makes us do crazy things. S. I closed my eyes, letting the tears finally fall. Game over. The small cafe near the courthouse buzzed with morning traffic. I stirred my coffee watching Margaret across the table. She looked older than she had 6 weeks ago, the custody battle aging us both. Sophie contacted me, she said quietly. My hand stilled on the spoon. When? Yesterday. She sent proof of everything. The accounts, the transfers, David's original plans. Margaret pulled out her phone, sliding it across the table. She's turning herself in. I scanned the emails, my throat tightening. Why now? Guilt, maybe, or love. Margaret's lips twisted. She said watching Lily in court last week broke her, seeing what this did to an innocent child. The custody hearing had been brutal. Lily, forced to choose between her grandmother and mother, had frozen on the stand, tears streaming down her face until the judge called a recess. "I'm dropping the custody suit," Margaret said. I looked up sharply. "What?" I was wrong. About everything. She reached across the table, taking my hand. I enabled David his whole life, making excuses, cleaning up his messes. I thought I was protecting him, but I was just teaching him he could get away with anything. Through the cafe window, I watched people hurrying past, living their normal lives. "It's too late now." "No, it's not." Margaret squeezed my hand. "Sophie's testimony will free your accounts. The money's already being traced. And with her evidence," she paused, "David won't be getting out anytime soon. That doesn't fix what happened to Lily." "No, but this might help." She pulled out an envelope. "I'm signing over the beach house to you and Lily. And half my savings." "Margaret, let me finish." Her voice cracked. "I've spent my life trying to control everything, everyone. Look where it got us. It's time I tried something different." My phone buzzed. "Rachel, SEC has Sophie in custody. Everything's coming back. Call me." "I don't want your money," I said to Margaret. "It's not for you, it's for my granddaughter." She stood, gathering her purse. "And for the daughter-in-law I should have protected instead of blamed." That afternoon, I picked Lily up from school. She'd been quieter lately, more watchful, as if waiting for the next betrayal. "Grandma's not taking me away?" she asked as we drove. "No, baby, you're staying with me." She was silent for a moment. "Is Daddy really a bad man?" I pulled over, turning to face her. "Your daddy made bad choices, but that doesn't mean he didn't love you. Sophie was bad too? Sometimes people do bad things because they're scared, or hurt, or think they're in love." I touched her cheek. "But that's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Can we go to the beach house? Like before?" "Actually," I smiled, "that's where we're going to live now." Her eyes widened. "Really? Really? Just us girls?" That evening, as Lily played on the beach, I sat on the deck watching the sunset. My phone showed notifications from Rachel about recovered funds, from reporters wanting statements, from Sophie's lawyers requesting meetings. I ignored them all, focusing instead on my daughter's laughter as she chased waves. The sound was different now, lighter, like she was finally letting go of a weight she'd carried too long. The USB drive still sat in my purse, its evidence now unnecessary. I could destroy it, bury the past completely. Instead, I tucked it away in a drawer, a reminder not of revenge, but of what it cost. Margaret appeared on the deck, carrying mugs of hot chocolate. "Room for one more?" I nodded, and she settled beside me. Together, we watched Lily playing below, her small figure silhouetted against the dying sun. "She's resilient," Margaret said softly. "Like her mother. I wanted revenge so badly I almost lost her, but you didn't." She handed me a mug. "You chose her instead." Lily's voice carried up from the beach. "Mommy, Grandma, look what I found." She held up a shell, perfect and unbroken, despite the storms that must have tossed it onto shore. "Like her, like us." "Coming, baby," I called back, rising from my chair. The future stretched before us, uncertain but full of possibility. Not the ending I'd planned, but maybe a better one. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's rebuilding something stronger from the ruins.